My friend Jenny was always happy, always full of energy. She loved riding her motorcycle, which is important for later, and she always loved new adventures. She worked as this security guard in the casino that I used to work at. And Jenny was the kind of person where, like, even if she was having a bad day, she would always try to make you feel better. After a year, Jenny got promoted to gaming officer, which made her really happy because it was a chance to move to the upstairs offices. And she would always say that if she got in, she would try to get me a job up there too. I worked on the casino floor. I was in charge of like paying out jackpots and getting change for players, things like that. And not long after her promotion, Jenny started acting a little strange. And it wasn't really obvious at first, but over time I noticed she was always tired and she would come to work late and she wouldn't have like an explanation as to why. Her attitude also changed. She was a lot more like cautious and jumpy than usual. And one time we were talking on the floor and she stopped suddenly and she stared. And I thought she was staring at me, but she was actually staring behind me. And so like I turned around to see what she was looking at and there was nothing there. And then she snapped out of it. She was like, oh, sorry, like I was just zoning out. And I was like, oh, you're a good girl. Like I didn't think anything of it until later. So one day Jenny showed up to work 2 hours late and her boss was really upset. So upset that like her boss looked for me and was like, do you know where Jenny is? And when she finally arrived, she looked really rough. Like her eyes were red. She seemed like really shaken. And then when her boss asked her about it, she was like, oh, I just had like a crazy night out. And then later that day, she pulled me aside and she was like, hey, can we like talk after work? Can we meet up? So we went to Denny's and she like told me what was really going on. So Jenny told me like weird things were happening with her. Weird things were going on. And at first it was small stuff. It was like cold chills or hearing strange noises. Like, you know, the kind of thing you could explain right away. But over time, these weird occurrences seemed to get worse. The chills were colder, the noises were louder, and things were moving around. Like at work, she would always see her desk get rearranged. And she thought like maybe someone was messing with her, but then when she asked, no one would admit to it. And then while she was walking around the floor of the casino, she would feel like taps on her shoulder or like a tug on her shirt, but then there was nobody around. And then near her office, which was like a quieter part of the building, she would hear footsteps like right behind her. And this was really freaking her out. And so she started like avoiding being places alone. Like she stopped going to the restroom alone because one day she was in a stall and she heard a knocking at the door and then like even louder knocks. And she was like, hey, can you like use a different stall? Because the ones around her looked like they were like not being used. And then the door started rattling, like someone was trying to open it up and then it stopped. And then the lock slowly started to move and like tried to like unlock itself. And Jenny finally just like flung the door open and nobody was there. And as she was about to leave, she saw this like dark, humanoid shape that was peeking out from the furthest stall. And then since that day, she had told us that she had seen that creature, that shape, that humanoid thing very often. One night she was like sleeping at her apartment and she felt like she wasn't able to like move or speak. Like she didn't feel like she was alone. And it wasn't like sleep paralysis. She knew she was awake. She then like looked up and she saw that figure that she had seen in the bathroom at work. She saw it over top of her bed staring at her and it had like glowing eyes. She jumped out of bed, she tried to turn the light on and the light wasn't working and the figure was like chasing her. It ran and it like blocked the door. So she ran to the closet and luckily for some reason the closet light worked and she didn't dare open that door. She ended up sleeping in the closet the whole night, which like I couldn't even sleep in my closet. It's full of shoes. But she ended up sleeping in the closet and nothing ended up getting to her. She ended up sleeping in the morning and she was late to work. So like she got ready really quick and then she came in and she explained what happened and like obviously like people weren't really believing her. But after that she started staying at my apartment and like nothing strange ever happened at my place. And at first she was really struggling to like eat and sleep, but then she was starting to be able to like sleep again and eat again and kind of like, you know, recover and be normal again. But the day Jenny died was the scariest day of my life. So I came in at 8 o'clock in the morning to work and Jenny arrived about an hour later. And at lunch, she told me she was gonna go back to her place. She felt like the haunting that she was experiencing might finally be over. And then after lunch, we like returned to working. And then when we were working, my super came up to me and he was like, hey, someone called out, like, would you be willing to work a double shift? And then tomorrow you can take it off. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then like a coworker got hurt or something. And so they also asked Jenny if she could stay a little longer. And she was like, yeah, whatever, sure. But after all of that happened, I felt like I was being watched. And Jenny was like, this weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I feel like I'm finally fine. But that's when I started feeling uneasy. And she was like, I feel like someone is angry at you. Like, I don't know who or what or why, but like something feels like there's some weird energy around you. And my coworkers were picking up on this too. They were also saying that they felt uneasy. And while this was going on, like the more it kept going on, Jenny was like, I feel more and more like myself again. Jenny finished her shift at like 11 o'clock that night. So I took a break, we talked, I said goodbye to her, and she went home and I went back to working. And she was talking about how she felt really like free. So I like said goodbye. I told her to text me when she got home. We hugged each other, and that was the last time that I actually saw her and talked to her. I then felt like a really strong urge to use the restroom. So I rushed to the employee restroom. I finished, I washed my hands, and then I heard a light knock from the stalls. And when I turned to look, I saw this like dark humanoid like creature with like glowing eyes, just like Jenny had described. And it was also in the farthest stall. And then I kept looking at it and I blinked and it was gone. But I stood there like frozen. Like I was trying to figure out if I actually saw something or like if it was just my imagination, if it was like late and I was tired. I didn't know. And I checked the time and 20 minutes had passed since Jenny had gone home. But like that image was burned into my brain of that like creature in the farthest stall. And so I decided to call Jenny to talk about it with her, and it went straight to voicemail. And the rest of my shift, I had a really bad feeling. After work, I went straight home, and then I called her again, and once again, it went straight to voicemail. And I texted her, I was like, hey, please like call me ASAP. Like, are you okay? Because she never texted me that she got home okay. But like that feeling like stuck with me even after I fell asleep. Like I was really freaked out. And then in the morning, my sister called me, and her boyfriend is an EMT. And she told me that he had responded to an accident call that night, and Jenny had been in an accident and she passed away. Her neck snapped, and that's like what killed her. And she was about 40 feet off the road after hitting like a metal safeguard on her motorcycle. Like it was a motorcycle accident. And my sister's boyfriend, the EMT, thought this was really strange because the speed limit was 20. And later it was determined that she was only going 10 miles an hour. And like there were no drugs or alcohol in her system. So they kind of just were like, maybe she was really tired and she fell asleep while she was driving, and she ended up landing neck first. But my sister's boyfriend did say, he was like, something feels really weird about this because like the ground did not look disturbed at all. Like there was no sign of anything like crazy or any accident happening on the road or on the like patch of like dirt. So obviously like this has been like haunting me ever since. Like I lost my best friend, so that's like really horrible. But a few weeks ago, I had a dream about Jenny, and we were talking, but I couldn't hear anything she was saying. And she pointed like behind me, and I looked behind me, and it was that thing, that like shadow creature that I had seen in the bathroom, the one that she had also described before she passed. And like, I'm not an artist, but here's like, I'm gonna insert like a picture of like a drawing of what I saw. This is like the best I can do. One more thing to note is that like the time of her death was listed at 11:20 p.m. and that was like the time that when I checked my watch to see like how long it had been since Jenny went home, when I saw that like creature, it said 11:20 p.m. Like it was the same time that I saw the creature that Jenny passed away. But I do have an update about all of this. It's been a year since I worked at the casino, and I recently went back to my hometown and like caught up with old friends who worked there. And I found out that like the thing that was haunting Jenny and kind of haunting me has been following around another friend of mine. And he had a nervous breakdown at work. He was ranting about like this shadow that wouldn't leave him alone. And like only a few people knew what happened to me and Jenny. And he was one of them. But she mentioned like other similar strange things happening as well. And my brother who works security, told me about something creepy that he witnessed. So one night, the security driver who checks like the parking areas in the back of the casino reported seeing a woman behind the casino near the dumpsters. And my brother was outside like smoking on a break with a coworker, and they heard faint crying coming from a woman. And this like security driver, he described the woman as like short, long dark hair, a blue sweater, jeans, no shoes, like crouching down and like sobbing. So the security driver called this into surveillance, but they checked the cameras and they didn't see anything. They didn't see a woman. So now I am going to have my actor friend and a dealer that I used to reenact the phone call conversation for you.
What are you calling in again?
A female in the corner of the dumpster is crying. She is not responding to my calls.
Okay. We see you. We don't see a girl.
What do you mean? She's right in front of me.
No, sir. All we see is you. No one else.
Are you serious? You really don't see the girl right here?
No, sir. If this is a joke, then it's a bad one. Not to mention a waste of our time.
But my brother said that like they were still outside and the crying stopped, and then the driver let out a shriek and like sped away. But the driver was like visibly shaken and trembling. And when his supervisor asked what happened, he said that after the surveillance told him that there was no woman there was no person there, and he was like looking at a person and there was no one there apparently, that the woman that he was watching stopped crying, stood up, and her head fell back like it had no like neck and no like bones. And then she started like walking towards him, but like backward with like her head like flipped around looking at him. And he screamed and he left. And what disturbed my brother even more is that the driver later said that the woman had no face. It's really creepy stuff. And now I wonder like if this was Jenny. I know she didn't die at the casino, but like I wonder if that like weird thing is keeping her trapped there. This creepypasta was written by Seth Raziel. I might be saying that wrong, R-A-Z-I-E-L. And it's called The Thing I Saw the Day My Friend Died. If you like my content and want more creepypastas, let me know. Subscribe, leave a comment, tell me how you think my actor friends did, how their performances held up, and make sure you like the video too. Thanks for watching. Stay spooky, guys.